hope your week has gone well for you so far. I mean that's the whole goal, and we just got a lot of things going on this morning. We're going to try to get everybody out of here by, I don't know, maybe noon, around noon. It's our normal Friday thing where we try to get done a little bit early, especially since everybody's had a great week and we haven't had any weather issues going down this week realistically. So, yeah, we should. That's going to be our target. That's what's going to be our target today is to get out of here a little bit earlier than normal and take advantage of a good week and a great weather week and a great production week. Want a big shout out to our team for, making all that possible and picking up a little slack, calling a few audibles during the week we had to. And shout out to one of our team members that's pretty significantly under the weather, but feeling better, a little bit better today. So, hope that continues to go in the right direction. I know we're trying to do a little bit of landscaping, and today make couple more people happy for Easter. With families coming and all those things that we do. So we're gonna, yeah, we got some good topics we're going to talk about today too. So yeah, curious what you guys are into today. You taking the day off? You taking it easy? Doing a half day? Doing a full day plus? And let me know what you got going on in your world because that's what's most important. Is what you guys got going on, and why I wait to hear from some of you guys. Yeah, there we go. Um, we got a little bed maintenance going on around here too. We got a few new mow jobs that we're getting done today, and so that's always good, and a few special Easter mows for people. That you guys know what I'm talking about. If you're in the mowing business, you got some people that just, hey man, can you pick me up at the end of the week? And sure. So we got them on their regular day, and we'll pick them up. We got some we're doing today again for them just because they got family coming. So we always try to do that. Dan, happy Friday to you, my friend. Appreciate your motivational post every day as well, man. Uh, hope everything's going well out there in the St. Louis area for you guys. So, business wise and personal wise, curious, with it being Good Friday, I know, there's Christianity as a whole as it's a big day. Corey, good day, good day. He says he's got a full day of cuts and then a little mulching they're doing. So, absolutely, man. It's it's that time of the year. It's that time of the year. Actually, going to talk a little bit about that. Is what that actually means, but just curious too. Going to be a serious show, but a fun, easy, laid back kind of show too. Daniel's going to hop on here with me in a little bit, but and talk about a few things. But just curious about Easter. How do you handle Easter? What kind of special traditions that maybe some of you all have? And I know today a lot of you guys are out humping it out, and maybe you can't text in. I get that too. So, but do you normally have people to your house? Do you go somewhere? I know Easter's kind of like Thanksgiving. There's a lot of family tradition that gets involved, with that. I know one of the big things that we do is that a lot of people do is the kids with the Easter egg hunts, obviously, but my sister Sherry is really enjoys that. I really do think she really still enjoys doing that and hiding the eggs and putting some change in the eggs and a dollar in a couple of the eggs and huh? Yeah, man, we got an Easter egg hunt for sure. Something I found the other day at Target was Easter eggs already filled with candy. So that yeah, it's pretty cool. So that makes the first round of Easter egg hunting a little bit easier. You don't have to stuff them the first round, and so that'll make it fun. That's I don't know why one of us didn't think of that or somebody, but finally somebody said no. Who thought of it, Katie? A mom. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably was somebody doing it. Like uh, experience is the provides the impetus for most inventions. So yeah, absolutely. You're right. Somebody's mom thought of that. You know, the, Oh God. I tell you, one of the silliest things, I like buying a lot of gadget kind of stuff. And that just made me think about that, Katie. I don't know why when you said a mom thought about it. But I bought this thing called an egg extractor. And all you did, yeah, yeah. And you put a like a crack in the very tip of the egg and you put it into this plastic thing and you pushed it real hard and somehow most of the time, yeah, it blew off the shell. So you didn't have to peel the shells, when you were sitting there wanting to do your Easter eggs on Easter morning. So yeah, that was pretty cool. It was called the egg extractor or something. I gotta look and see if that's downstairs still. It might still be down there or back where the manual to the calculator. Yeah, so I'm sure the egg extractor's there somewhere. So, damn, I just I hope I think about that later today. I'm really going to look for it. I don't, Tabitha, if you're listening, make a mental note to ask me about that. I'm gonna see if that rascal's still down there. So yeah, that thing was pretty fun. But one of the traditions we had also that my mom used to do with us was there's this candy place in Louisville called Moose Candy, Muths, and it's a family owned candy store. And oh my God, their chocolates to kill for. It's I mean that's probably not the best example to use on Good Friday, but it is really, really, really good chocolate. And I'm not a big sweet fan or a big fan of chocolate, quite honestly, but I like theirs. Theirs is just really you can just taste the difference. You really can. Not just saying that. So, but that's some of the traditions we have, and uh, John Stuber, if you're listening to us today live, shoot me a text. Let me know some of your alls. But I want to, reason I bring you up, buddy, I want to tell you thanks for sending me the messenger thing that you did. That was cool. He sent me a thing about my opening song that I use here, on my Prophet Time. He sent me a message with that in it on how how that applies to parenting. So it's funny. John knows John's a pretty funny guy. Excuse me. But with that being said, we're going to take a short break and we'll get into our show. And looking forward to some input from you guys. Got something I want to talk about off social media that I saw that I think you guys would be interested in, and certainly a continuation of where we left off on Wednesday. So we'll be right back with more Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station. Don't you go anywhere.
Hey, this is Aaron Walls, your host of the Landscaper Roots, right here on Turfs Up Radio. If you're like me, you know how real it is being a solo operator in the landscape industry. It's now my mission to grow with you, sharing stories and experiences while learning from others who have been in the industry and willing to share their mistakes so we don't have to make them. Join me live Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern or 6 a.m. slow time for you Central folks, right here on Turfs Up Radio.
Get ready to abandon gas with Crest Commercial. With insane power and extreme longevity, the era of batteries trailing behind gas engines is over. With the Crest revolutionary 8-minute cyber system, Crest Commercial landscape tools provide the same power and performance as their gas-powered counterparts, as much as a 2-stroke engine. Plus, the Crest 60-volt CyberPack batteries charge in 8 minutes or less. Professional landscapers can finally make the switch to battery without sacrificing performance, power, or runtime. Crest, it's the only choice to replace gas. For more information or to find a dealer near you, visit Crest.com.
Hello, Turfs Up Radio. It's your host of Profit Time, Wayne Vose. Are you a lawn and landscape business owner striving for more profit and success? Join us in the Profit Circle, where we offer exclusive webinars, meetings, videos, and direct access to industry experts tailored specifically to elevate your business. Our group focuses on essential skills like bidding, estimating, contracts, cost calculation, and much more. Dive deep into effective marketing strategies, advertising tactics, and sales techniques that work in the real world. Don't miss out on this opportunity to transform your business with the Profit Circle, where profit is not a dirty word. Visit our website at profitsareus.com to get started today. Yes, indeed.
This is Lou Blacksail from Liars of Ur, and you are listening to Turfs Up Radio. TurfsUpRadio.com, baby. Wow.
Wow. Welcome back. Welcome back to Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio. Yes, indeedy. And speaking of the Profit Circle, next week on Tuesday, April 22nd, we've got our webinar coming up. And I think this it's going to be really a great opportunity to learn a lot from a gentleman by the name of Dan Kasser. And Dan has been in the web business and the ad business for over 30 years. He'll give you exact time frame, but I know he's been working with us here at WLS for probably 30 years at least. And but he's still, even with that longevity, he's still not an older fella. I know he's not my age or nowhere near my age, but he started with the company, pretty young, and he's been calling on us here at WLS and Profits Unlimited for a long time. And but anyway, Dan's going to share his knowledge concerning website presence and social media presence, and how you don't have to spend a fortune to have that presence, or you can spend more if you want better presence and additional leads. So, but yeah, be sure to join us if you're not a member of the Profit Circle and you'd like to sit in on that. Feel free to reach out, let me know, or you can simply go to our website. And that's Profits or Us. That's profits, AREUS.com. And right on our homepage at the very top, you'll see a big banner that says the Profit Circle. And you can join right there and in our free trial basis. No hooks attached, man. And again, that's going to be Tuesday, April 22nd. At 7 p.m. So, and you guys within the Profit Circle, look forward to you guys being there and listening to what Dan has to say. You won't be disappointed. And you can, I joke about this, but the reality of it is he can answer your questions. Let's put it that way. I know some guys like to, see what somebody's knowledge actually is, and but Dan can certainly answer your questions. Let's put it that way. So take the time, join us 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 22nd, and we look forward to seeing everybody there. So not just our members, but you as well joining with us. So it's going to be a good night. Good night. I know you guys are going to be busy during the day out doing what you do because it's that time of the year, but set aside the time, put a reminder in your phone, right now for that. I also want to give a shout out to our equipment distributor, Midwest Equipment, and Ben Taylor. Ben was kind enough to reach out to us earlier in the week and came by Wednesday and then again yesterday and went over their new equipment Skaggs got out, that Jackal. So he dropped that off, and we're going to give that a test drive for a bit, and really looking forward to that. It looks like an outstanding piece of equipment. Some of you guys may be familiar with it and have tried it or maybe own one or a product similar to it. But yeah, we're looking really forward to trying the product. I know just running around here a little bit in our shop and our yard and, doing some mulch and rock with it a little bit already. Looks like it's going to be a pretty decent piece of equipment to get out on a job and see what happens. So, but I did want to give Ben Taylor a big shout out for that. We certainly do appreciate that, and him as our distributor, Midwest Equipment. certainly appreciate you trusting us to, try that equipment. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Anything, it really boils down to, Daniel, anything that can make our lives a little bit easier. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. We don't mind investing the money into equipment that's going to increase efficiencies, and make our lives of our team members easier.
Right. Yeah.
And
It just makes sense. It's the initial investment, of course, that you look at it first and you're like, oh gosh, and it hits you a little bit. But then you got to look back, at the numbers and go, well, how does this actually improve things? Where does this make us more efficient, quicker? We can go do more jobs, get more done in a day and make more money.
Well, I mean, like this specifically, I mean, something we were just talking about, we get quite a few calls for sewer line fixes, where people get their front yard dug up where they, somebody has to have a sewer line either replaced or cleaned out or whatever it may be. And currently, I mean, our solution to that is a skid steer, which is fine, works great. But I mean, this is something that this particular piece of equipment would be outstanding on, and doesn't require the time or the effort that a skid steer requires. And again, don't hear me saying that it's bad to use a skid steer, hard to use a skid steer. It's not. But this particular piece of equipment, I mean, it's got a lot of uses, but this is something that this Skag Jackal, I believe is what they call it, the Jackal, is going to be really great at that for us. So I think we could almost, even if we didn't use it for anything else, I think we'd have the opportunity to recover our cost on this thing pretty rapidly, just doing 15 or 20 of those a year. I mean, that's the reality of it. Not to mention all the other opportunities that, where a skid steer doesn't fit into somebody's backyard, doesn't fit through a gate or whatnot. This is going to be a decent piece of equipment to look at. So I'm really looking forward to, putting it into play a little bit next week into our operation and see, what it actually does. So, because like I said, anytime we could increase efficiencies, we're good with it. Let's see. Doug sent us a text. Let's see. Let's see. We've got Doug. Good morning, Doug. Appreciate you reaching out. He said they rent a mini skid a lot, put a broom on it and sweep snow. Absolutely. And that's the neat thing about these. I mean, the attachments are, you can do grapples, you can do brooms, you can do, augers. It's, if we could have hooked up on an auger today, but we got a friend that does help us with that, Chris Kelty. You guys have heard him on here before, but he's got a ton of different equipment. We just didn't. Chris was actually meeting us on a job site this morning with his equipment and augers to get these trees in the ground quickly. But this would have been certainly something, Daniel, that we could have done had we had the auger attachment with it. So yeah, again, there's something else instead of a guy digging a hole, or even using the hand augers, which are really good too. Again, it's just something that we think is going to speed us along and make sense. Now, is it something that we're going to use on every job? Absolutely not. I don't think we own anything that we use on every job other than a truck, because you got to get there, But even the trailer you don't use on every job because you're not always taking a trailer. But the reality of it is, and to Doug's point too, they use a broom with theirs, the one they rent, and they do a lot of snow with it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to use this thing and see how it works out. And Doug, I appreciate your input on that as well. But we just see a lot of opportunity with it. You can put the forks on it. I think it's got like 1,100. I think it was 1,112 pound
1125, I think.
1125 on the capacity. The footprint on it is not bad. It's just a little over 4.5 pounds per square inch. So when somebody says, "Oh my God, you're going to put that on my yard," it's not bad. And that's one of the reasons that we use a skid machine, a tracked machine, versus a wheeled machine. Is for that weight displacement. So that's something to think about as well when you're purchasing a piece of equipment, like that. Whether it's a smaller mini skid like this Jacko is, or even your own skid steer. Now there are places for wheeled machines. That's obviously somebody. Maybe we'll get somebody on to talk about that. Because I mean they've all got their place. It's like anything. You know, uh, Z sprays ain't for everybody. Handguns ain't for everybody. You know, 72-inch mowers aren't for everybody. 36-inch mowers aren't for everybody. It's just, jackals aren't for everybody. Dingoes aren't for everybody. But all I say is ask yourself, are you giving yourself the opportunity to be as efficient as you can, and just don't be intimidated by the price of something.
Yeah.
And you can do like Doug said, they rent mini skids a lot. So if you're sometimes renting is a better choice than buying. You got to make sure that the overall cost of ownership is worth it, or are you better off renting? And a lot of times renting a piece of equipment, we did that. We rented equipment before we start buying things that we didn't justify the cost of ownership on. But if you don't understand your numbers and how you're going to recover it, and what your sales plan is to recover the cost on the equipment and to make a profit with it, then you are more laid back or more resistant to think, oh God, do I really want to spend $40K or 20 or whatever the amount is for whatever it is you're buying, for a piece of equipment.
Yeah, and with the spreadsheets we have, it's easy to plug those numbers in and figure it out.
Yeah, before you ever buy it.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about it. Yeah, or know why you charge what you charge, stuff that Daniel's talking about. We can run a piece of equipment through it before we ever buy it to see what it's going to do to a cost per hour of operation, and see, hey, what type of sales goals are we going to have to produce to make the cost of ownership make sense on this. So we're looking forward to it. I'm not trying to sell you one. I'm not even so sure we're going to buy one, but what we are going to do is put it in service for a bit and see how our labor hours change on different jobs. I think one of the big things in talking to Ben was, just the fact of the efficiency over a wheelbarrow for like mulch or rock, that you're going to see, so, and it, when you're talking about labor cost, it doesn't take too long to start figuring it out that,
Yeah.
hey, if we can reduce labor cost and get done more efficiently, what does that mean? Well, what it means is we've got more hours during the day to sell somebody else.
Right.
So
it also gives you an opportunity too for your employees to get trained on this equipment, get good at it, make more money for the business, and then have the capacity to make more money themselves.
that's right.
So then you become a more attractive place to work when you have the ability for higher skilled people to go, oh, I can work here because I know I can make a good amount of money because they make a lot of money doing what they do.
Right. Yeah, Doug just sent us a couple pictures of one of their rentals in action. And absolutely. Yep, there it is. Doing a little dirt work with it there. Got the broom on it, doing a little snow work with it there. And yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Looks like Doug's got it figured out already. That hey, this is the thing. That hill that Doug's working on right there is exactly what I was talking about. I mean, it's not it doesn't look like a sewer line, but it's that kind of size job that it would. God, it's just going to be so efficient on, you know, and we don't have to get the big skid steer out. So I can hear some of you guys saying, man, were you worried about getting a big skid steer out? You already own it, you already got it. Why increase your costs? Because we're going to use that jackal for other things or some version of it for other things. That's the reality of it. So, yes, indeedy. Speaking of trying to be more efficient, Daniel, and making everybody's life easier, there was a really good post on social media that a gentleman put up named David Carroll. And I don't know if Mr. Carroll's one of our listeners or not, but he had a really good point on something that he shared. He said, see, Doug said, renting is our way due to not needing it daily and one less thing that needs maintenance. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about it. And that's where if you look at the cost and you run your cost sheet, you know that, hey, what's my cost of ownership? You know? And there's a lot of times when a rental or leasing, you know, whether it's, you know, short-term leasing or whatever it is a better option than cost of ownership. You know, so that's also what you need a good accountant for. That's why we talk about that on here. You know, having a good accountant. But each job, yeah. He said besides they bill the rental, the full rental, with pickup and delivery to each job as it gets used on. So there you go, profit dollars in action. So nothing wrong with that. Glad to hear. Glad to hear, Doug, and that you guys are thinking about it that way. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. So keep it going. Doug says they really got access to a really good rental yard, Daniel, and that is important. Having a partner in crime, if you will, not just from a rentals division, but you know any dealer that you work with, your suppliers that you work with, you know, a rental company, because you know actually that's something we discussed here with Ben. You know, the distributor on that equipment was about you know their local dealer network, and also rental companies. You know, so that is something to think about for sure. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this post that this David Carroll put up on social media about, you know, and this directly relates to efficiencies of spring startup and, you know, and how busy that could be, but also owning a business. And let me see, I want to get this quote here. It said, owning a business means you don't punch out at 5. Sometimes you work 90 to 100 hours per week for zero income. And nobody speaks on it, but that's the reality. And when I saw the nobody speaks on it, Daniel, that's when I thought, I'm going to talk about that. Because I think it's a very valid point. And not just from the startup of the spring, excuse me, not just from the startup spring hours that you get involved with, but the hours that a lot of people put into their business over and over and over and over for too long without making changes, you know? And so David made a really good point here. He said, you know, he remembers those times when they were working hours, you know, 90, 100 hours a week or more. And, you know, you wake up at night and you're thinking about it. And God, I remember that. And I still do that sometimes. You know, you wake up at night and you're thinking about, you know, what's going on, go on tomorrow or the next day, or you're thinking about a job, or you're thinking about an employee situation. And, you know, you got all these things that run through your mind about 180 miles an hour. But this was a really great post. And when he said a lot of times we're doing it for zero income, meaning you're not being compensated for the hours that you're working. And that happens, that does happen, you know, especially on the startup side of your business. But what you can do, and I think this is something that that didn't get, none of the responses got into was the reality of it must be nice. And we talk about that here on the radio a lot of times, but the reality also is, yes, we know it's always going to be busy in the spring. We generally go out busy in the fall. Snow brings its own set of responsibility and timing for guys that do snow. But the reality of it is, I want to make sure, and Daniel, you've probably got a much better way of saying this than I want to, but just the fact that it doesn't have to be a forever problem that you're putting in 100 hours. What can you do and implement and change? And sometimes it's equipment that we implement to take some of that stress level away. Sometimes it's more employee based things that we take some of that stress away. Let's see what some of our some of these comments we got on that. So let's see. Yeah, absolutely. He says many nights I put the kids to bed, then end up working till 11 or 12 myself on estimates and paperwork. Absolutely. Or maintenance. Let's see, Craig's got, if you're working 80 to 100 hours for little pay, time to get out of ownership. We've all been there and are there now. And that's it. That's the whole point is, we got to think about what are some things that we can change and do different, right, Daniel?
Yeah, you should. I think you should. What you're doing past production and billing and all, like what you're doing. I don't even want to set an hour amount on it because
Right.
40 hours or whatever. But if you're spending an excess amount of time per week, I think you should be doing things that are adding value to your business at that point. That should be a time investment. And I don't think, and we talk about it all the time with, are you working 80 hours a week and having to go home and do 20 hours of billing per week at night because you service too many properties, because you are going after everybody trying, not charging enough, and you think more work's the solution? Like, is that the problem? Or what's the problem here? Because like you said, and Craig, I think you said, Craig said, like, if you can consistently work 80 to 100 hours per week and you're never changing that, then that's on you at that point. Like you said, you haven't implemented anything to get more efficient, get better, delegate.
It's funny that you mentioned delegate because that's Dan out in St. Louis. He said that was what his comment was, Daniel, that delegate and say no more.
Yeah. It's different to work 100 hours a week on a given week where it's something, but to make that your everyday 50 weeks, or 30, 40 weeks a year, and you're not ever changing that, then that becomes a choice. Like you say, a decision or a mistake made over and over again is a choice, and you're choosing not to change.
You're not doing what it takes to see a different result.
Yeah. And like I said, I think overall, if you're going to be putting in those kind of those hours, then they should be investment hours. They shouldn't just be grind hours and I got to get this done and the same thing is going to happen tomorrow. Got to get this done and all that kind of stuff. It should be working on things that are going to then pay dividends in the future.
Right. Hang on to that thought, and then we're going to get to some of these texts here. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station. Getting back to this comment that Mr. Carroll had, and and this is to Daniel's point as well. That's what he mentioned, that the first 3 or 4 years, 5 years, can't remember exactly what he said. I don't have the post in front of me now, but as he was building his company, they did have a lot of hours. But now that to Daniel's point, as they built their company, they implemented technology and efficiencies and things to help them be more successful, more profitable. Just ask yourself, what are you doing to get yourself into a better position? Because, to Mike's point, he brought it up here on a text he sent us that, it's okay to be busy and it's okay to work hard and it's okay to have long hours, but it's okay to figure out that, hey, that can't be an everyday, all the time situation going on in your business. Dan, my buddy, he said it took him 35 years to start slowing down. And he said, life's too short. The work will be done by somebody when we're dead and gone. And you know what? That is solid advice. And, that could be certainly one of the huge takeaways. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to make that the truth bomb today. That is going to be our truth bomb today here on Turfs Up Radio, is that the work will always be there. It just will. I mean, whether you think it is or it isn't, the work's always going to be there, and customers are temporary stops. Those two things are a given for any business. I don't care what business you're in. So now what you do as a business owner or business manager is you've got to manage the things surrounding the work being there and the temporary stop of the customer, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 25, 30 years, it doesn't matter. And you're going to have customers that last that long. For you guys who've been in business 5, 6, 10 years or 12 years, some of those are still going to be with you 15 years from now, assuming you're in business. But you're going to have a lot that come and go as well. So to Dan's point, and it's solid advice, don't be a slow learner like he was. Don't be a slow learner like Wayne was. Listen to somebody like Dan, who's got 35 years plus experience in the industry, that said, hey, man, it took me that long to realize that I needed to slow down a little bit and smell the roses. And I think that's something that I didn't do either soon enough. And I want each and every one of you guys, and I'm sure Dan feels the same way. I don't want to talk for him, but it's just in his post right here, his text to me, that take the time to smell the roses. Work is a good thing. But something my dad used to say that took me a long time to learn, and he made the same mistake, and he was not in this industry. He said, Wayne, you need to understand that you work hard, and you need to work hard, but you got to understand that you need to play harder. Spend time with your family and friends or yourself, whatever it is, but be sure to take that time, because what happens when we realize that, hey, by investing in equipment and time and talent of employees, these are all things that should make our businesses run smoother and better. And don't try to think that you're going to change a employee that may be doing something that doesn't make sense either. I was a slow learner on that. Okay. Matter of fact, I was just speaking this morning with somebody, that the reality of it was the guy's basically not listening to direct orders, if you will. Or you don't call them orders. What do we call them? Direct, a direct, yeah. Hey, do this. And he's making his own choices. And we tell people here, yeah, it's okay to make a choice. But the reality of it also is there's certain company policies that we want you to follow. We know you may not dig a hole the same way that I'm going to dig a hole, or we may not trim a hedge the same way I'm going to trim a hedge, but we have certain company policies that need to be adhered to. It's like this morning, I had to remind somebody nicely that I said, hey, what size shirts do you need? Had on one of our old shirts. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. But hey, we invest in image. We invest in image. So we want everybody to play, to play that same game, let's see, Wayne, I'm finding myself having to terminate one of my key employees. It's definitely upsetting and hard. Any ways you do it to make it easier? Whew. I mean, it is hard, and you worry about it, and you lose sleep over it, and uh, it's never easy. You're right. I never will forget the one time the gentleman's passed away since, so I'm not going to use his name, but he had been a guy that worked with us for I think at that time it was like 14 or 15 years, and he kind of start thinking that it was his business, and he start being a little bit rogue, if you will, and I never will forget the day that I called him into my office and had him sit down right where I'm sitting now, and told him that we were going to have to relieve him of his duties. Basically, we're going to have to terminate him. Let's just say it. Hey, and I hated to do that, but it was what was best for the company. And I think what you do after you do that is you go, like, I'm glad that's done. And that is a hard thing to do. I will tell you, that's the hard thing to do. I've had to do it a couple different times with guys that have been with us a long time. But first, you try to give them an opportunity to make a change, to do the right thing. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But and it was like Craig was telling me today with somebody he's got. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing this story, or I hope he doesn't. Normally doesn't. But it was, a crew lead that had experience, but was just being insubordinate, if you will. And what we got to think about is what's that doing to the whole company image, if you will. Hey, well, I don't think this yard needed to be mowed today, so I didn't mow it. I skipped it. Like I was joking with Craig, but I said, well, you know what? Just time the next yard time he skips a yard, it comes out of his pay. Now you can't do that, but that's what you'd like to tell him. But that is a discussion you could have and say, every time you skip a yard, man, you skip 3 a day. That's X number of dollars a day. That's what I'm paying you with. So, if that's the business model you want to work within, then you probably need to do it somewhere else, because I can't run my business with you skipping yards. And I think that's something that we all need to get a little bit better at. And honestly, I think here's the thing. Here's the thing, and we're kind of going down a road I didn't plan on going down, Daniel, but that's all right. And if you got any input on it, let me know, because yours is always good as well. But I want you guys to remember this, and this is our second truth bomb of the day. And you can believe it if you want to believe it, but anybody with experience will tell you this is 100% accurate. Or let's go with this, 99.9% accurate. There may be that outlier out there. But you will not long term change somebody. You won't change them. I used to think I could change people. You won't change somebody. Now, they may have an epiphany and change based on some positive direction that you're trying to give them. But 99 times out of 100, you're not going to change somebody's mindset. You're not going to change their, what do you call that? Just the way they operate. Their
Personality.
their personality. You're not going to change somebody's personality. You're not going to change their mindset. And more importantly, you can never, ever, ever. This is, I normally don't say always or never very often, but that was 3 nevers. And I'm going to say it one more time. You can never make somebody care. They may pretend to care for a minute. I want to say a minute, a day, or a week, or, hey, man, I'm just frustrated. I mean, everything's just falling apart, and life's shitty, and ain't got no money, and boy, if I could get a little more money, it sure would help, and so you give them a little more money, and that worked for a week. They're smiling and eating bonbons and watching TV and enjoying life and working hard, and then 2-3 weeks later, they're back to the same position of where they were at. That's the reality. That's the truth bomb to that. So do know and understand that you're not going to change somebody. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Let's see. Doug said this guy that he's got has been disrespectful to everybody. It's pretty much the same thing, Craig was saying, and I mean that we've all go through it and all been through it. And if you haven't been through it, then you will eventually. That's just the reality of it. Corey says, I like to tell my wife that I care about people's lawns just as much as they pay me to. But, Corey, there's probably a lot of truth in that. It's that relationship with the customer that I think we got to look at. And those are all things that can be fixed and repaired, but you got to make sure that they're not getting the same message over and over and over again. And to Dan's point, delegation takes pressure off. But delegation without authority for somebody to get the job done can be problematic as well. And getting back to working a whole lot of time and not making any money. And one guy even said on that post that, my guys are making more money than me. Dude, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I remember those days specifically when everybody got a check but Wayne. I sit here a lot of Fridays and with my hand on my chin thinking, God, it's another week, man. It's another week where I ain't getting paid. I'm waiting on cash flow to come in. I'm waiting on checks to come in. I'm waiting on this. I'm waiting on that. And for years, I went through that same stuff. I didn't change, to Daniel's point. But the reality of it is, human nature doesn't allow us to want to change very frequently. But the core reality says people don't change until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. And that is reality. When you finally get tired of something or somebody, you fix it. When you get tired of working 90 hours a week, you'll figure out how to not work 90 hours a week, whether it's more efficient equipment, more efficient software on the backside that says, hey, man, I don't have to come in and spend 5 hours every night doing billing or get some software that does your billing, for God's sakes. The hours that it frees up are going to be ours that help you retain or get back your sanity and to understand and focus on the purpose of your business. You know, let's see, we got quite a few texts go rolling in here. Dan makes a good point. You know, you're missing life, you're missing your family. And he makes a really good point here. He said, it's the only things you'll want in your last hours. And I could not agree anymore with that, Dan. That is exactly the truth. I never once, not once, does anybody that I've ever known that's passed away while they're laying there said, damn, I wish I was at work or wish I could, go do one more thing at work. It's not the reality. You can't take it with you. So in the meantime, what you can do is set up a business. And we've sure went a long way around this circle, Daniel, starting with the jackal. But it's all connected. But what you can do along the way to take back some of that free time is to implement efficient equipment, whether it's through buying it or renting it, doesn't matter. Rent it till you can afford to buy it, or it makes sense to buy it. Not afford to buy it. You can afford to buy a lot of shit. I call it ego buying. Guys that buy a lot of equipment that they don't put any hours on, but they say they got one. But then they're sitting there wondering about, damn, I wish I could do this, wish I could do that. But the reality of it is, it's not always equipment that's going to make you more efficient. It's not always technology that's going to make you more efficient. It's not always better employees that are going to make you more efficient. It's a combination of all those things. And you, as the business owner, being able to look at that information that you've got in front of you, whether it's equipment, labor, expenses, whatever it is, and ask yourself, what am I and can I do differently? Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. What can I do differently to help not only myself, but to help my employees and to help my business and to help my family? And last but not least, your customers. Because when you're not working your brains out daylight to dark every day with no change in sight, like this David Carroll said, I don't mind working hard. I just don't want to do it forever. Implement the things that you can change within your business that will also change your personal life. And that's what we forget about. I think specifically, this is just for Wayne Voles. This doesn't mean it has to be this way for you. But my pecking order of importance is you owe it to yourself first. You owe it to your family second. Now, I'm not making my family second, but if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not going to be there for my family. So you got to take care of yourself first. You take care of your family. Take care of your business. Do what's best for your business. Why? Because employees and clients are temporary stops. So do what's best. If that means firing somebody that's been with you 1 day, 5 days, 5 years, or 10 years, do what's best for the business. Because you and the business and your family are always going to be there. So you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your business, and then you owe it to your employees. And then once you got those four things in order, guess who's going to really reap the benefit of all that? Customers. And that's how we create loyalty with the customer. Loyalty is the most valuable thing you have in your business. A lot of people want to argue and say it's employees. Employees are very, very important. Don't hear me wrong. For any of you guys listening as an employee out there, we appreciate you without a doubt. But loyalty of our customer base is what makes our lives a whole lot easier. Because then we're not spending as much money on marketing and advertising, because our retention is greater. And it's all beginning to make a little more sense. So we're going to wrap this up and be done, but I would just want to reiterate it one more time. The need to make a profit is the obligation of every company. As basic as that sounds, sometimes we get lost in thinking working harder is going to make more profit dollars. Absolutely not. Not going to be the right answer. The first thing we got to do is understand cost. Then we understand cost. We understand the customer base we got to go after. We understand the customer base we got to go after. Then we're going to understand the image that it's going to take and the professionalism that's going to take to go after that customer, and what type of employees is that going to take to retain that customer. And that's when the hours of work get reduced, the profit margins go up, everybody gets more family time, including your employees, and the business thrives. You know what's cool about each and every one of those things? They're all choices that you get to make. They're all choices that you get to make for your company. It's easy to decide, hey, yeah, let's buy that jackal. It's an easy choice. The hard choice is, damn, that person's not doing their job. I got to fire them, and they've been with me 10 years. But do what's best for your company. And remember, profit is not a dirty word.